But that's what you might expect as this potential tornado heads west-northwest.
Told we have a live look from St. Augustine right now where this is under a tornado warning. We can take that if we want to.
Wow.
This is from...
That's a lot of water.
Okay, this is from I'm assuming our first alert storm tracker shot. This is away from right at the bay. This is San Sebastian Winery.
The winery,
okay.
yeah, okay.
So it's flooded all the way up there. They have water coming from each side here, basically.
Yeah, exactly. And realize we are headed to high tide. We gave the first alert on this for days. A lot of first alert on this yesterday and last night on these high tides. And this is going to be a major high tide for the beaches and the intracoastal. And we need to talk about downtown eventually. Yeah. And that's another story when we get to this afternoon and into tonight. I am looking at the Skycam. We do have the Skycam. Let's take a look at the Skycam.
Let's go over here,
Mike. Okay, good idea.
We've got Joel in here now. Let's go ahead and talk about
Joel lots with us here with the Steadicam camera, so we can move around. Good idea, good call. And look at this is reminiscent of, goodness, 5 to 6 weeks ago with Ian, and obviously then previous storms, Irma and Matthew. Look at downtown St. Augustine. Goodness gracious.
Matanzas now.
That is, that's the Matanzas out of its banks. That, to me, just off the top of my head, we're just looking at this raw right now, Garrett. That's rivaling easily Ian, I think, in depth right now.
I think so, too. And there's more time to go. So
right,
it's
right. Yeah, good point. We've got another hour to high tide.
Yeah, hour to high tide in downtown St. Augustine. About 9 at St. Augustine Beach, up and down the coast there in central St. Johns County. But this is an area that's under the tornado warning right now. You see the winds, the onshore flow.
Yep.
Regardless if there's a tornado, you got the winds of 50 to 60 miles per hour in gusts coming in there.
Very poor visibility. Let's head to radar here, Garrett, right behind you. This is First Alert Storm Analyst. Remember, we've got the tools to keep you updated. We've got a camera right here at St. Augustine. We've got multiple radars. This is First Alert Storm Analyst, and here is the we've got multiple circulations. To me, it looks like, Garrett. One that's already inland west of I-95 now, so heads up at the outlet malls. That'd be just south of the outlet mall on Highway 16. Another, that's probably a circulation coming ashore near the intracoastal east-southeast of St. Augustine, followed by yet another one behind that. These will just continue to come ashore in St. Johns County and eventually Duval and Nassau as well. And that's why the tornado warning is in effect. Remember, a warning means you need to take action. It's indicated by radar the tornado or has been sighted. A watch means conditions are favorable. Let's go back, Trevor, to 5-Sweep First Alert Doppler HD. Again, this is Storm Analyst. We're going to go to 5-Sweep First Alert Doppler HD, which you're used to seeing, and you'll be able to see in here the same thing we're watching now. We have rain on the left, wind on the right. Here's 5-Sweep First Alert Doppler HD, and this is the area of concern where we have these storms coming ashore, and right on the southern edge of them, this is where we're seeing the circulations and the possibility of tornadoes. And look at this, and multiple ones behind that then, and then look at this next band, which is setting up, and there's even lightning in some of this, working its way well offshore, and now Trevor's put it into motion. See how these are moving west-northwest, and then just feeding right into one band St. Augustine and soon a band into Duval County. And these will produce flooding, high winds, and possibly even tornadoes too as they move to the west-northwest. Another interesting camera shot. We will stay with that tornado warning in St. Johns County for the most part, Garrett, but this is Jack's Beach, and boy, the Jack's Beach Pier reopened in July of this year, has been taking a beating this year. And now this is St. Augustine Beach, right? St. Augustine Beach Pier, and it too has been taking a beating. And look at the high winds and the wave action here with breakers in the double digits.
Yeah, and it's been like this for a couple of hours here in St. Augustine Beach, where we've seen 60 to almost 65 mile per hour gusts here. So we're tracking a lot for you here right now. We got the wind, we got the water, we got the potential tornadoes here on First Alert Doppler HD. Here it is right now. Let's show you here again where we are seeing this tornado warning right now. We'll zoom in and show you here where that warning is. You notice the red polygon here, that's central St. Johns County, that includes the area over into I-95. So we are going to track this into, say, Volano Beach. Let's take a live look right now in Volano Beach here. We have a live shot coming in where we've seen the water coming in. You're under the tornado warning. Winds of 30 to 40 and even 50 to 60 miles per hour is what we're tracking there in Volano Beach here right now. So we'll track that and continue to monitor it. But let's go back to the tornado warning and show you the velocity data coming in. Right now, we have some winds here in St. Augustine of 50 plus miles per hour being reported on First Alert Doppler HD, 60 miles per hour. We have a 60 mile per hour pixel coming in, so 50 to 60 miles per hour. regardless if there is an actual tornado coming in on First Alert Doppler HD. So that is the area that we're watching here. We'll just check just to make sure there's no debris flying around that we can detect. It's kind of hard during the tropical setup, but it is moving again to the west around 40 to 50 miles per hour here. So there's the entire tornado warning. We're watching multiple areas coming in off the Atlantic right now with our First Alert Doppler HD. These little appendages kind of coming in very quickly. We're watching these down here just to the north of say Summer Haven, Crescent Beach. We're watching that for you. So let's go back over here to Chief Meteorologist Mike Burrish. Mike, we're seeing still some of that rotation. There's St. Augustine Beach, seeing some more here as you see it move in over the past couple of minutes.
Yeah, they're just lined up, multiple little circulations, and while some of them may or may not produce waterspouts or tornadoes, this is what we look for, and it's a precursor to that happening, and that's why the tornado warning is currently in effect. And this is likely the first of several tornado warnings that are going to be issued this morning. And we gave you the first alert about that the last few days. We expected a tornado watch, means conditions are favorable. A warning means you need to take action. And that warning now for St. Johns County, St. Augustine to the World Gulf Villages and areas in between, includes the outlet malls, a number of new residential areas there, and Trevor's is circling what looks to be the next significant circulation now that's going to come in off the ocean.
And again, that all of this is blowing in the water. And it's an onshore wind. These high winds, 50 to 60, that gives an extra push of that little bit of water coming in off the Atlantic. And so we're seeing this water here behind Mike in downtown St. Augustine. Every moment there is more water filtering in to downtown here.
Yeah, this is deeper than just 10 minutes ago.
Second by second, we're getting more wave action crashing over that seawall. And so now it's almost hard to even see the wall there going into the Matanzas.
Yeah, and you can see the sailboats in the distance here. Obviously, they've been anchored down. Hopefully, will stay there. But we have that issue with each and every storm. Some of them have a tendency to break away. Winds are howling. You can see the palm trees from right to left. That's an east wind now. Winds are a big deal as we go through the day-to-day, too, not just because there'll be localized tornadoes and then some wind damage, but they'll become more southerly as Nicole gets more to the west. It's now a little west-southwest of Orlando, and as the center of Nicole continues that movement west and northwest, our winds are going to rather abruptly become more southerly. That helps out a little bit at the beaches in the long run. Not right now, but in the long run, it does not help out downtown for the St. Johns River and the potential flooding with high tide, which is close to noon today. The next high tide downtown. Next high tide St. Augustine within the next hour.
And we've already seen moderate flooding overnight along the St. Johns River, and even one gauge at Dunn's Creek, Satsuma, got to major flood stage, about 3 feet there. So continuing more of that throughout the next kind of phase of this system. So again, we are tracking. Trevor's monitoring this here on the First Alert Weather Center. How about we go back and talk to Trevor a little bit?
Yeah, Trevor, what are you seeing here? You've circled these circulations. They're just kind of lining up, aren't they?
Yeah, they're
classic
one
of
after
tropical
another.
systems.
Exactly. And so the one that initiated that warning has since kind of weakened and broadened up a bit, but you'll notice right behind it, there's more lining up and ready to come on in. And they're moving at a speed of 50 to 55 miles per hour, Mike. That's really fast.
So you don't have a whole lot of time to act and react, and that's why we're emphasizing for you, first of all, to stay calm, but realize that while the winds are blowing strong 30, 40, 50 miles per hour, when one of these tornadoes moves through, or circulations, it will enhance that wind to at least 60, 70 miles per hour.
Possibly can even go out higher than that if they stay tight, which thankfully right now they haven't. But we're going to continue watching that and put it into motion and show you the reflectivity.
Let's look at that motion. And when you say tight, we're talking about that circulation, right? The counterclockwise circulation of these little cells that are possibly producing waterspouts and tornadoes.
Yeah, and you can see just for miles offshore, they continue going. And
really lined up here. So our emphasis right now is obviously the tornado warning for St. Augustine to the World Gulf Village and along I-95. And again, for tornado safety, stay calm. The interior part of the building that you are in, underneath something sturdy. A bathroom oftentimes works well because of the extra pipes from plumbing. Stay away from windows and out of mobile homes. Do not get into an automobile. If you're in an apartment complex, the lowest part of that building is preferable, but if you can't get to the lowest part of the building, then a bathroom works well again. And stairwells, underneath the stairwells, another good spot in case there's debris.
Exactly, and you really just want to have to surround yourself with as many walls as possible. And I mean, many of us don't have basements. Obviously, a basement is an ideal spot, but in this case, you just want to have that most interior space away from windows until this warning expires.
Really curious about this cell to the south of St. Augustine now. It's got a little appendage where it a little hook where it pushes down, extends down to the south a little bit. And I'm thinking we need to zoom in on that and take a look at the velocities, perhaps. That's a real curious little. And there it is. Look at the wind. Look at the circulation.
Exactly.
Yeah. So This has just come ashore near Crescent Beach, Shores Boulevard. We're on street level mapping now, and that is a concern. That appears to be a circulation and is actually south of where the current tornado warning is in effect. So heads up, that's going to be Crescent Beach working west-northwest near Elkton, crossing Highway 207 and I-95 eventually, which is right over here. There's Elkton. So this would end up probably a little north and northeast of Elkton as it moves west-northwest. That's another circulation that technically is not tornado warned right now, but might be one for us to carefully track. And there, Trevor's putting the track on there. And again, a reminder that we are on 104.5 WOKV radio, so we're trying to make sure that we can speak in a way that allows our radio listeners to understand what we're talking about. If you're on I-95 in St. Johns County, we recommend that you take a break from driving and just let these storms pass before moving on, because not only are they producing potentially isolated tornadoes, blinding rain, strong winds. We've got this particular cell into Elkton or near there at about 850 and Federal Point at about 858. This circulation that is actually south of where the tornado warning is now in effect.
Yeah, and one thing I want to point out, Mike, that I was talking to Garrett with earlier is, in addition to this, it's pouring rain.
Right.
So you might be tempted to go try and look for maybe a water spout or a tornado, and you might not see it because it might be rain wrapped, and that just adds another element of danger to these storms as they come in.
Really good point. They're fast moving and obscured by rain is the fancy term that we use a lot of times. Just means you can't see it, like you said. It's pouring, they're moving fast. You just need to take action, realize that there may be somewhat significant damage when one of these circulations comes ashore. It looks like another one is near St. Augustine or just northeast of St. Augustine, and then the other one south of St. Augustine. Garrett's going to go to the other side over here and take a look at some of the cameras as to what we are seeing now with this storm as it moves through St. Augustine. We're getting some additional reports. We have a report now of a 67-mile-per-hour wind gust south Ponte Vedra Beach. Goodness gracious, that's the area where we've had so much beach erosion and the pounding there, and some of the homes are seriously compromised and still taking a pounding yet this morning. Garrett, you want to take it away here? Look at St. Augustine with the water.
Yeah, and south of this, Marineland reporting multiple dune breaks from storm surge flooding in Flagler County. Just looking at those reports coming in. So again, we at last check, the A1A going south from St. Johns County into Flagler County. Excuse me, been talking a lot. Is impassable right now in terms of they're being blocked off. So there's some water there. As, of course, obviously downtown St. Augustine here, still a bit away from our high tide. Less than an hour away until 9:30's high tide in St. Augustine, but we are continuing to track that here this morning. All right, let's go back to First Alert Doppler HD. Now, the National Weather Service indicating, which makes sense, that the rotation has weakened in this storm, but the tornado warning continues. And we do see winds at 50 to 60 miles per hour here coming in off the Atlantic, where we also are tracking here in the Atlantic in St. Augustine Beach. I've turned the camera back to the right just a bit so you can see as the waves hit the seawall. There's the St. Johns County Pier. There's the double-digit breakers offshore. And so that's going to continue here. High tide is about 9 a.m. at St. Augustine Beach. So here's First Alert Doppler HD. Once again, that active tornado warning we are tracking for you here this morning, again, until 9 o'clock. Let's go back and show you what's going on in Jacksonville here at the moment. We'll put it in motion for you, play it over the last hour. We got some steady rain, a little bit more stable air mass, not as tropical here in Jacksonville. That'll change, though, as we go through the next 1 to 2 hours. We'll try to get a little bit in terms of the weather. It'll be a little bit more unstable there, so we'll get some more potential of perhaps even a rotating thunderstorm. So again, that is the area we're watching right now at the moment here in St. Johns County there. So there's the storm surge flooding I was just talking about in Flagler County. This main band is beginning to lift out to the north and to the northwest. But again, that will continue lifting into a more metropolitan area in terms of Jacksonville here, the I-10 corridor over the next 1 to 2 hours. So we are already seeing a lot of water being piled up here along our immediate coastline. We're seeing, I don't know if we could take, we have a live look in St. Augustine right now, I'm told, here of the flooding. We'll go back to that here right now. Let's go ahead and take it live here. This is St. Augustine, and I'm looking at, you might know what building we're looking at there. This is a live shot from our photographer, Mark Doherty, and that is without sandbags, perhaps. That's across from San Sebastian Winery.
That's the Shell station there, right there.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, there's the restaurant. Okay, so now I've got my bearings. So again, that's the water coming in from the tributaries coming in on the backside of downtown St. Augustine,
Right.
and then from the front end as well. So we're getting multifaceted areas of flooding here coming into downtown St. Augustine at the moment, and it's again only going to continue for a little bit more, and then they'll take a little bit to get out.
Speaking of water.
Oh, thanks, man.
Yeah, no problem. It sounded like you might have needed that. All right, we've got a lot of water here. Now, Trevor, I'm curious if we can operate St. Augustine camera still. Is it functional?
I'm trying to get it to load.
Okay, if we can go a little to the right, and we'll see. But the reason I want to do that is because that will be a good marker for Ian, how comparing the water here to Ian. But I think if everyone here, okay, we have a guy walking in the water on our other live shot here. Mark Daugherty's got that somewhere. We're going to have it here pop up. There it is. Yep, the guy's probably checking on the businesses here. Mark, we appreciate your work out there. We know it is wet and windy, and it's kind of miserable. There it is. And we still have some of those political signs out, which are going to be blowing all over the place too after the election on Tuesday. But you can see there a little bit below the guy's knees in that particular place. But I know we were all here. And then we're going back to this building that's obviously being compromised by water. We were all here during Ian about this time in the morning hours. Phil and Chandler and Garrett. And I would say at this point the water is very similar in height at least.
At least.
Yeah. If not more. And headed to certainly be more. So this is probably going to beat the Ian. There we go. This is the shot I was looking for, Trevor. Nicely done. This is the sign. When Ian's peak waters were a few weeks ago, it got to that yellow part of that sign. So it looks to be maybe a little bit below that in this particular location. But we also have a little stronger wind out of the east and southeast versus what we did with Ian. So the wind is more powerful, and we still are not to high tide. We're still an hour away from high tide, so this is going to get deeper. And this was our concern all along, was this high tide cycle for St. Augustine, Garrett.
And just to let the folks know, the tornado warning has been canceled just now coming in from the National Weather Service. So we're still seeing the wind gusts, of course. We're still seeing the flooding and also more wind on the way. Nothing that is looking in terms of rotation at the moment, but again, still more bands of heavy showers that again is trying to lift a little bit farther to the north, and more stable air mass to the north and west. This is a tropical rain band that's continuing to kind of give you that more humid atmosphere, more tropical feeling outside, and that's when we could see at the coast especially, perhaps a water spout or a tornado try to form. Right, and
when you say more stable, we just mean it's cooler air to the north and west. You remember yesterday it felt kind of raw, kind of chilly, it was windy, drizzly, with temperatures from 50 to 55 degrees and then into the 60s. Now it's into the 70s, or will be soon. The dew points are higher, it's more humid, and that's helping to fuel the storms and the individual possibility of isolated tornadoes. We're going to track some of these cells, but realize there's no tornado warning in effect now. I suspect there'll be some additional tornado warnings. You could pick out any of these cells. I'm looking at maybe 50 in this shot here.
Yeah, and the lightning, there's some lightning.
And there's some lightning, and these will be the ones that we have to carefully track as they feed into Duval and Nassau County, and then eventually southeast Georgia too. But let's track maybe, Trevor, this one that's kind of hanging out with a little attempt at a circulation in St. Johns County that's just past I-95. This one is going to head west-northwest at about 50 miles per hour, crossing I-90, it's just west of I-95, and then crossing Highway 17 here into Tocoi at 853, into Leno at 859. Garrett, highly rural area, but still important, of course. And there are some new construction areas here, subdivisions that have been built recently.
Yeah, how about this, Trevor? How about we widen the view a little bit, and then we go out to those cells, that secondary band that will target Nassau County. Let's give you folks a first alert. Now, understand the structure of these thunderstorms now, I guess, with the lightning, will change by the time it makes its way into your neighborhood, but they're going at 40 to 50 plus miles per hour, so it won't take that long. So how about we time out one or two of those?
Okay, here's a band. That's a good call.
Just
good
to
idea.
see when they would arrive. And Kingsland, Georgia, 9:40, Fernandina Beach, 9:21.
So we're looking at between 9 and 10 o'clock where we start to see the more intense rains, potential isolated tornadoes, Garrett, into Nassau County in Florida, Camden County in Georgia, an area that's had some rain but hasn't had really the intense bands that we've had a little more to the south the last couple of hours.
Yeah, and Fernandina Beach, the Front Street area, we're going to be watching that for the potential for that water rise. We saw it yesterday, likely going to be ongoing here through our high tide cycle this morning as we get some of that rise there. We'll be watching it on our First Alert Skycam network there in Fernandina Beach from the Hampton Inn. But again, we will have to watch that as these cells try to get a little bit farther to the north and as they race to the north and to the west at 50+ miles per hour.
Speaking of First Alert Skycam network, Garrett, this continues to be, look at that wave action, really
It's
impressive
pounding
here at the St. Augustine Beach. That's the St. Augustine Pier. We're seeing breakers easily over that wall there and then flooding into the parking lot. This area had a fair amount of damage after Ian, and of course has not been repaired, and that's true of all the dunes up and down the coast. This is going to once again completely reshape the shoreline along our coast of especially St. Johns County, but parts of Duval, Nassau, Camden, and Glynn County too.
And when he says that, it means that we could even have some new inlets in spots,
Right.
especially St. Johns County, where we have that typical spot. I don't even
Near Summer Haven, right.
It was cut with Ian again, and so
Yep.
it could widen anything. Water does powerful things.
It
And
does,
so-
and as I've said many times before, if Mother Nature cannot be commanded, she should be obeyed. And this is another great example today. The ocean is taking over right now. We're building on the coast, and now it's going to take some of that away. And the 2016 was the first breach that resulted in the new inlet. That was in 2016, Matthew. And then you had Irma in 2017. You had Ian this year, and now Nicole, and multiple nor'easters, of course, thrown in there as well. But these breakers are now tremendous waves, double digits. There's another one way over the seawall, and then flooding into the parking lot. And again, we're still approaching high tide at this point.
It's a big wave right there.
Yeah, there is one.
And this has been like this for a couple of hours now. And again, we're approaching high tide at 9 here, so technically 9 more minutes at St. Augustine Beach, but then it takes a while to get back out. But again, this is pretty much the high tide cycle this morning there. And again, this is just showing right here we have a seawall and up and down the coastline here. Volano Beach, we've been showing you those reports here. We've been showing you pictures from downtown St. Augustine and up and down the beach, Crescent Beach, Butler Beach, up into South Ponte Vedra Beach. We're going to have some of that severe beach erosion and even the potential for some inundation from the water coming in off the Atlantic. Now, again, we don't have an active tornado warning right now on First Alert Doppler HD, but Mike, we are tracking those cells coming in off the Atlantic. And again, behind Mike is downtown St. Augustine, where we continue to see basically you can't get through there with all that water.
Yeah, virtually nonstop rain now for areas near and north of St. Augustine up through Duval County, Clay, Bradford, Union, Baker, Columbia County, so Lake City, McClenny, Middleburg, Stark, Jacksonville, and then that's going to shift north with time to Nassau County, north of Jacksonville, Fernandina Beach, Yulee, Callahan, and Hilliard, and then eventually even into southeastern Georgia. Realize if you're wanting to take Fido out this morning for a quick walk or let Fido do its thing, going to be a little while before we catch a little bit of a break, unfortunately. But at least no tornado warnings are in effect right now. Do we have any additional storm reports, Trevor, that we need to get communicated?
City of Augustine measured a wind gust of 60.
All right, so we're getting those wind gusts as expected, 50 to 60 plus miles per hour. But for right now, Garrett, no tornado warnings are in effect. A watch remains in effect. Tornado watch means conditions are favorable for tornadoes. We'll, of course, immediately get to you on the air when and if another tornado warning is issued.
Yeah, so we'll have complete coverage, of course, here. Action News Jack's First Alert weather app as well. You'll get those instant severe weather alerts if they need to be. But right now, we'll continue monitoring this using First Alert Doppler HD. Chief Meteorologist Mike Burrish in-house here right now on Action News Jax.